Chapter 15, Plant Diseases Caused by Nematodes by Curtis Gilliland. Characteristics of plant pathogenic nematodes. Morphology: 300 to 1,000 micrometers in length, some up to 4 millimeters. Only 15 to 35 micrometers in diameter, making them invisible to the naked eye. Anatomy: body is transparent. Body contains fluids that does both circulation and respiration. The reproductive system is well developed. The life cycle: eggs hatch into juveniles. Juveniles grow with 4 molts. By the end, they are adults. They differentiate between male and female. Females can then fertilize eggs themselves or mate with males. Symptoms caused by nematodes. Nematode infections usually have the most impact on roots, but do show symptoms above ground. Roots may have lesions, root knots or galls, excessive root branching, injured root tips, and root rot. Above ground, there can be galls, lesions, rots, twistings, or distortions of leaves and stems, and abnormal development of the floral parts. How nematodes affect plants. The mechanical injury is generally very slight in damage to the plant. The saliva secretions do the most damage. The nematodes puncture the cell wall and secrete saliva, feed some, and move on. The plant reacts, resulting in damaged root tips and buds, lesion formation, tissue breakdown, etc. Some of the damage then becomes infected with other pathogens. Relationships between nematodes and other plant pathogens. When nematodes and other pathogens work in concert with one another, then they can be damaged to a much greater extent than either one could do alone. There are several nematode fungal disease complexes. There are few known nematode bacteria complexes. The best known relationships are between nematodes and viruses. Several methods of effective nematode control are available. There are cultivars resistant to certain nematodes. Bacterium can infect certain nematodes. Other nematodes can control unwanted varieties. Fungi can also affect nematodes, and there are chemical controls. Root knot nematode. They occur throughout the world in warm and hot climates. Characteristic symptoms of the root knot nematode galls that are 2 to several times as large in diameter as the healthy root. This begins when second stage juveniles enter the roots behind the growing plants. They then settle their head in the developing vascular bundles. The most effective control is through nematicides. Soybean cyst nematodes. Soybean plants produce few flowers, are stunted, and leaves yellow and fall off early. This develops when second stage juveniles penetrate young primary roots or apical meristems of second roots. They pierce and feed off cells of the cortex, the endodermis, or the pericycle, causing enlargement of those cells. The most practical method of control is through the use of resistant varieties and rotation with non-host plants. Sugar beet nematodes. Similar to the soybean cyst nematode, it is the most important nematode pest of sugar beet production. Early sowing of beets can allow them to grow before infection occurs and becomes important. The citrus nematode. The citrus nematode is present and common wherever citrus trees are grown. The trees show a slow decline, they yellow early and lose leaves, and the fruit production slows to unprofitable levels. The control of citrus nematodes is based on preventing its introduction into nematode-free fields. Lesion nematodes. These nematodes occur in all parts of the world. Infected plants appear stunted and chlorotic, as though they are suffering from mineral deficiencies or drought. Lesion nematodes can best be controlled by overall or row treatment of the soil with nematicides before the crop is planted. The burrowing nematode. The burrowing nematode occurs widely in tropical and subtropical regions, can cause plants to have fewer and smaller leaves, and can topple over due to insufficient root growth. The nematodes enter feeder roots and move in the cortical parenchyma, feeding on nearby cells, destroying and causing the formation of cavities. Control can be gained through flooding of fields for 5 to 6 months, or by the soil fumigation or fumigation post-planting treatment with appropriate nematicides. Stem and bulb nematode. The stem and bulb nematode occurs worldwide and is particularly prevalent and destructive in areas with temperate climates. Within invested fields, the emergence of seedlings are retarded and stands are reduced considerably. Nematodes enter near the root cap or at points still within the seed and remain mostly intercellular, feeding on the parenchymatous cells of the cortex. Control on certain crops can be reduced by longer year rotations and resistant crops. Sting nematode. Sting nematode are known to exist in sandy soils primarily in the coastal plains of the Atlantic and Gulf Coast, but also in some Midwestern states and California. Young plants infected with sting nematodes grow poorly and stop growing altogether. Sometimes careful crop rotation with non-host crops is effective. Stubby root nematodes. Stubby root nematodes occur all over the world. Infected plants show abnormal growth in lateral roots and proliferation of branch roots. The nematode punctures the cell wall with its stylet and releases a viscous substance that causes a cytoplasm to aggregate around the stylet tip, and the nematode ingests part of it, then moves on to the new cell. Stubby root nematodes can be controlled through broadcast or row application of nematicides. Seed gall nematode. Seed gall nematodes were the first recorded plant parasitic nematodes. Symptoms appear on plants in all growth stages. Seedlings are severely stunted, stems are enlarged near the base, and diseased heads are shorter and thicker than healthy ones. Juveniles feed ectoparasitically on the tightly compacted leaves near the growing point. The juveniles enter the floral primordia and produce the third and fourth stage juveniles and adults. Each primordium becomes an seed gall that may contain 80 or more nematodes. Control of the seed gall nematode depends on the use of clean seed free of nematode-containing galls. Floral nematodes. The floral nematodes are widespread in the United States and Europe. Affected buds or growing points sometimes do not grow but turn brown, and they produce short, bushy-looking plants with small and distorted leaves. Sanitation practices are the key to controlling foliar nematodes. Pine wilt nematode. Pine wilt nematode occurs in most of the United States and much of Canada and Mexico. The foliage of infected branches or whole trees suddenly become grayish-green and the trees stop exuding resin from their wounds. Control measures involve insecticides to control the beetles that host the nematodes. Red ring nematode. Red ring nematodes occur in countries of the American tropics. The systems appear first in old coconut leaves nearest the point of infection as yellowing from the tips inward and then as browning of the leaves. Control is difficult, but infected trees should be treated with systemic insecticides and nematicides to reduce the vector and the nematodes within the trees.